I'm Theron Ramacharaka. Here on my TQR, I wrote TAR. TQR, that is the Ron Q Ramacharaka channel. I have a playlist about survival gear, and I have recently posted a video called Kukri versus Sidearm. Also, I here emphasize antidotes to what I call the hijacking of human being. Antidotes at the consciousness level of affairs. Now, perhaps in consequence to these matters here on my channel, recently a friend referred me to a website that advertises a survival tool called the Survival Frog Tact Laser. I was asked my opinion over whether anybody who buys one of these items might end up on a government watch list. Now here I will tell you a bit about that laser tool. In fact, I will show you the way it is advertised, and I will relate to you my response to the inquiry made of me, that being the opinion for which I was asked, and that also being my tying in of that opinion with mine about so-called advanced weaponry, as well as with mine about general destructiveness, and even with the nihilistic thought of Friedrich Nietzsche. Let's start with a look at this Survival Frog Tact Laser. Here's the site. Once a top-secret military weapon, this insane survival tool could easily save your life. Yes, send my tact laser now. For the love of God, pay very close attention. Please. Very close attention to the next 3 sentences. As you read this, American soldiers fighting bloodthirsty enemies on the bleakest battlefields are alive, thanks to a survival tool almost identical to the one you see here. Make no mistake about it, the simple handheld survival tool is one of the most powerful tools in all of human history. Our brave men and women in uniform absolutely depend on the technology in this new survival tool to make sure they come home to those they love most. In just 2 seconds, I'll show you exactly how it works. But I need to tell you something important. If you're dead serious about using survival tools to keep you and your loved ones safe, then refusing to read this letter could be one of the biggest mistakes you ever make. Yes, send my tact laser now. At one point in time, this technology was top secret. Fortunately, DC insiders recently declassified this exciting technology. Yes, send my tact laser now. Warning! What you're about to read might gross you out. That's because I'm about to show you the crazy way the tact laser replaces a gun or a knife in a self-defense situation, and let me be crystal clear. The reason the tact laser is so extraordinary is because it uses a very special kind of laser. Now, it will literally shred human eyes apart, causing temporary or even permanent blindness. Imagine using this against a thug who plans to harm you and your family. All you have to do is point the tact laser at his face and he will drop to the floor screaming in agony as the laser saws through his eyeball. And that's just the beginning of the tact laser's amazing life-saving powers. Yes, send my tact laser now. And so on. Yes, send my tact laser now. Yes, send my tact laser now. And on it goes. Yes, send my tact laser now. On and on. Send my tact laser now. That's right. You too can destroy. Okay, now, back to my opinion, verbatim. I looked at the site to which you referred me. While it might be true that the thing is legal for the general population, and might also be the same as what is used for surgery, or might in fact be not much different than most other green lasers, which are all dangerous to shine on the retina, I have the same feeling that you have about it. That is, it looks like a setup to me. Another note. If it has been declassified, then imagine what hasn't been. While it looks enticing, it seems to me to be a sign that nothing we buy will protect us very well. While it also seems to invite somebody to look for one thing after another to keep up with the Joneses. There are all kinds of things invented by mankind to destroy. or to preserve his fellow men. These days, I am unsure how far it goes anymore, but I have heard that starting with World War II, for every year of mainstream technological advance, the secret military and the secret government in general have technologically advanced nearly a century. The fabled particle beam disintegrator is no longer a fable. Perhaps the World Trade Center incident was an experiment with this sort of thing. Matter, such as that comprising Building 5, was pulverized or disintegrated large scale, not blown apart. Also no longer fabled is technology that enables instant teleportation, and that enables transfer of consciousness from one bodily container to another, and that regenerates life force in a given container. I consider also the fact that holography uses lasers, and that there exists the capacity for things like Project Bluebeam, the capacity to use satellites to create holographically a fake second coming or a fake alien invasion from so-called outer space, mid-air, with no apparent projectors or mirrors at all. Add to this the power of HARP, the High Amplitude Auroral Research Project. Alongside its numerological aspect on the one hand, and its electromagnetic aspect on the other hand, one of the primitive characteristics of the mental universe is its holographic aspect. Therefore, using numerological and electromagnetic technology to manipulate its holographic effect is, in my opinion, not only plausible, but also quite at hand. These considerations render the froggy thing, the survival frog, tactile laser, antiquated. Still, the website and its advertised product looks like a setup in the way that you suggest. The thing to do if you want one is to find somebody who's going to get one and have him order 2 of them, and one to sell you. I myself do not want to give anybody a reason to put me behind a wall. Not these days. The most likely next step would be into a coffin liner. Not worth it for an already obsolete tool that potentially raises too many brows. The public will never have the weaponry advantage. At least not during my lifetime. These days, military vehicles parade past my place on Route 81. Not that my place is on Route 81, but it's right next to it, on a nearly daily basis, increasingly. And military helicopters fly lower and lower overhead. It's getting to feel very disturbing, and there's nothing that I can do about it. Most locals ignore all of it, the same as they ignore the chemtrails overhead. Some days I feel dread, and wait for the sound of jackboots at the door. And on many nights I have nightmares about it all coming down. I've had them all of my life. Owning the froggy thing would feel to me like carrying an invitation for disaster rather than possessing a deterrent against one. And I can just imagine that most people who would get one just wouldn't be able to wait to find an excuse to try it out. At some point, I think, we individually have to say enough is enough. I mean, just imagine how safe we would all feel going camping if everybody out in the woods carried a simple handgun. Not very safe. I cannot keep up with the Joneses, and I wouldn't want anybody thinking I might be trying to. It seems weird to me that so many people support the police and the military, and all of their gadgetry, while they look at my girlfriend and I oddly for just having kukri knives. I have run into a couple such people lately. And then there are those, on the other hand, who like to say, oh, I don't mess around with kukris or karate. I just carry a gun. I'd just sling some lead at you. Well, what's next? Oh, I don't mess around with guns. I just carry my froggy. Or, oh, I don't worry about froggies. I just teleport. Or, I just project holograms of my body wherever I want while I disintegrate yours. We stand on the eve of self-destruction. I think it better to expand consciousness limitlessly than to expand the weapon arsenal endlessly. Or next thing we know, we'll all have handheld nuclear devices and nowhere to go, but for a while to some low subplane of the astral, only to maybe cycle back to the Diva station after a trip through a soul recycling station on the dark side of the moon. I used to be an electronics technician at SeaWorld in San Diego. One of my duties was to daily test the laser display in one of the shows. The green, I forget the gas that creates the green wavelength, was known to be the most dangerous. The whole display was carefully designed to never hit anybody's eyes, and this was back in the 90s. This froggy thing here is nothing new. A moment's thought will make that clear. I know that you know that, though, but not everybody will think of that. It seems to me that the website, is a bunch of hype to sell something, and perhaps to get people onto a list. Yes, given the way it is advertised. It definitely is worded to appeal to those who desire destructive power. And those whose job it is to have that power already have it in this form and in greater forms. I had more fun at SeaWorld doing what I wasn't supposed to do. Fraternizing with Shamu before the public arrived in the morning. She would be out swimming in her show tank, and I would put my eyes against the clear tank wall. She would swim over and put one of her eyes on the other side, and we would just look into each other's eyes like that. Then I would communicate with her. All I remember is that she knew a lot more than most people even imagine. Lasers are creative, restorative, illuminating, and destructive. And then there was light. There's a good reason for the fact that laser pointers are low power, but even they are dangerous. It bothers me that people fool around with them, teasing their unknowing pets. Lasers are pretty to look at, but only from the stadium. That which creates also destroys. The Star Wars project was and is essentially a laser project, as far as I know. And the Froggy tool is just now available to the public again. Just imagine what isn't available. I wish I could discern what is really happening at CERN. You can bet it has something to do with weapon development. If you don't know about CERN, this is CERN. CERN. Near Geneva, the particle accelerator complex, including the underground Large Hadron Collider. I had something else here brought up about it. Let's see. CERN. Let's go back to this. Oh, here we go. Pictures of the Large Hadron Collider. Look at this stuff. Crazy. Crazy. There's a lot of talk about what's going on there. I don't know that any of us peons out here really know what the heck's going on. The creation of black holes, whatever. But, nonetheless, I have no hesitation in saying that no doubt it has something to do also with weapon development. I feel it's safe to propose that the froggy thing wouldn't be declassified if there weren't a classified antidote to its effect. Some sort of goggle lens. The same as AIDS wouldn't have been widespread released if the elite had no antidote. No wonder with all of their promiscuity, we never hear of a member of the royal families contracting AIDS. Now, all of this stuff reminds me of Friedrich Nietzsche's statement that all of reality is units of will encroaching upon other units of will, in an endless recurrence of the same. It also reminds me of the fact that Nietzsche went down in history as a pessimistic nihilist who went mad before his death. Nietzsche claimed to have witnessed his own annihilation through meditation. Well, in college I analyzed that he had meditated, yes, and took his false ego inwardly with him, and thereby went psychotic. And from that analysis, I got an A from one of the world's leading authorities on Nietzsche. Furthermore, with all of Nietzsche's talk of the overman, also known as the superior man, the superman, the man who encroaches upon others the most, beating them down, Nietzsche, in front of his own house, he finally saw a man beating a tired horse. And due to that, he fell into such despair on the poor animal's behalf that he went into his own house and cowered in it for 3 years, I think, silently, until he died. Some overman. And this same Nietzsche is the man whose sister then compiled a bunch of his notes and with them created the book Will to Power, which she presented as her brothers to a man named Adolf. And from the mess that pessimistic nihilism set into motion, existentialism tried to provide recovery, although not very well. Existentialism attempted a response to something that deserved none at all. For with all of nihilism's talk of meaninglessness, the most meaningless thing about it is the talk itself, although we're all at a loss to objectively prove it in Nietzsche's psychotic wake. Even the scholars who understand the truth about that passionately find something irresistible about Nietzsche's darkly illuminating drivel. Drivel which to me simply and loudly says, "Don't go here." I'm reminded of all that here. Ah, the froggy, foggy light of Nietzsche, a mere flash in the pan. Nietzsche proposed that nothing is real, that meaning is an empty concept, that morality is a hoax, and that the truth, the notion of truth, is, roughly as Nietzsche put it, the contrivance of that man who viciously misled humanity, namely Socrates. Nietzsche's arguments were so well locuted, and passionate, and thorough, and reflective of their contemporary Germanic social milieu, that their destructiveness still runs deeply in the human psyche. While every one of his main points can be argued in his favor, there is always something missing in such arguments, but that missing element tends to disappear every time it starts to show up. We can argue all day against him and never win, although we may know that we are right and he is wrong. Our opposition will always follow Nietzsche and say, "You can't prove that you are right, for there is no right." And when we then say, "Well, then you can't prove to me that you are right either," the response will always be, "There you go again, talking that nonsense." And around it goes, stuck in an endless mental recurrence of the same, where everything good, and truth itself, and soulful meaning is destroyed. This leaves plenty of room for the so-called devil to do his so-called work in the broad daylight, and for humanity to destroy itself for no reason at all. I'm Theron Ramacharaka. Be well.